So yeah, it's also a very, very busy time in the sort of 135 to 147 divisions. You know, one guy who's like being talked about across all three of those divisions at present is Terence Crawford. Um, Obviously, he won. I think it was fifth round stoppage of Hank Lundy this weekend. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I didn't think it was the best performance, oddly enough. I'm probably one of the few people that will say that. I was listening to Box Talk's video earlier in the morning. And yeah, Lundy, I watched some of the highlights. He gave him a fair few problems in the first and second round. He came to fight fire with fire. And Crawford picked him off in the next three rounds and he stopped him. I think he knocked him down once or twice. And yeah, I mean, Crawford, elite level prospect. Well, not prospect anymore. Elite level fighter, pound for pound star, definitely. Um, I mean, I watched him when he came over to fight Ricky Burns in the UK, and he looked superb that fight. I think Ricky Burns actually gave him a really good fight, considering where Crawford is now. Gave him a superb fight. I mean, he still gets hit too often for me. I mean, of course, no one's gonna be Rigo, Floyd Mayweather, Loma, those sort of people who get hit who don't get hit very often. But for me, he gets hit often way too much. His defense is slack, and he needs to fix that to be to beat everyone from 140 to 147. There was a picture. He was standing next to Mayweather, and I think he's friends with Tim Bradley as well. And standing next to them two, he's considerably larger, considerably. So going up to 154 is not out of the question. And I know he rehydrates to 157 or so. He does rehydrate quite a lot. In one of his lightweight fights, he was struggling to make the weight, and he rehydrated to about 160. So yeah, so he can't. He's a really big guy, and I can see him dominating. He moves up to welterweight, makes the natural progression within the next 12 to 18 months. He can dominate there. I mean, Brook's a big guy there, but I know that Eddie Hearn does mention in some videos that he is a really big guy for the weight, and sometimes he doesn't keep to his fighting weight. He does fluctuate in between training sessions and whatnot. So yeah, and Thurman's obviously big. He's thick for the weight. He's not necessarily tall, but he's very thick for the weight. So those two are the biggest guys there, and Porter hits bang on 147. So there are big guys there, but whether or not they'll still be there when Crawford's there, and Crawford would dominate 147 and be the heir to Mayweather's throne supposedly, is another question. Do think he's a solid fighter. Don't get me wrong, pound for pound definitely, but elite pound for pound number one, number two, not for me. Not yet, at least. Still has a lot of things to work on. What about you? What about yourself?
He doesn't deserve to be top one or two pound for pound because
No,
he has
definitely.
competition.
Definitely.
But a lot of people are saying he doesn't even deserve to be top 10, and I think that's nonsensical, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's definitely top 10, definitely top 10 pound for pound for me. I really rate the guy. Certainly offensively, even if not defensively, like you say. But I saw that photo of him and Mayweather. It's a real interesting photo, actually, because not only is Crawford considerably taller than Floyd, but he also looks broader, physically wider, and Floyd, obviously, as we know, he fights at 147. He's not a huge welterweight. He probably walks around 150, between 150 and 155, let's say. So, I think it is reasonable to assume that Crawford could be up in the 160 mark, when he's not fighting. I could see that, definitely. So, presumably, he is going to move to 147 eventually, especially if he's cutting that much weight. I mean, the glamour fights, the huge money fights probably are at 147. Crawford versus the Pacquiao-Bradley winner, Crawford versus the Thurman-Porter winner, maybe Crawford versus an Amir Khan or a Kell Brook or even an Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner would be a very interesting fight for me against Crawford. So there's lots and lots and lots of options out there for him at 147. Having said that, he hasn't yet really fought the top guys at 140, has he? I know he's fought Derry John and he fought Delorme and Lundy, but there's still big fights out there at 140. Obviously, I know Herrera, Batiste, I think Provodnikov's moving up, but you'd throw him in there as well. Victor Pastol. For me, I do think he beats all of those guys. I really do. I think he's looking pretty good at present. I quite like the Adrian Broner fight. You know, Adrian Broner is one of these guys who's gone from being the most overrated fighter in the sport to probably the most underrated fighter. I mean, yeah, he's lost twice, but the 2 times he lost, he just went up against substantially bigger men who were able to maul him. You know, let's not forget, Adrian Broner has never lost below the welterweight division, and he's clearly not a welterweight. And he's got some real good skills, Broner. Very defensively sound, very smart in the ring, and I think Broner is another one to throw into the mix at the elite level 140 division.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's fighting Ashley Theophane next.
Yes.
How do you see that fight going?
Ashley Theophane on his day is a decent fighter. I mean, everyone remembers the Danny Garcia rematch. You know, he's kind of flown slightly under the radar since then. I think he's had some wins, maybe a loss or two. But, for me, it's about levels. And Ashley Theophane, as decent as he is, he's not on Broner's level for me. The way to beat Broner is to maul him, take his range, rough him up close, big man him. And I don't see Ashley Theophane doing that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd go with a Broner stoppage, I'd say. If Broner's got good power, actually, to be fair. He's fighting at a good, solid weight class for him. Natural weight class, probably, for him. He's not cutting a lot of weight, I'd say, assuming he's training right and everything like that. We know he likes to go out and live the flamboyant lifestyle. But, he's not cutting too much weight. He's doing what he needs to do, and I think he could get a good solid stoppage over Ashley Theophane. Be a good fight as long as it lasts, possibly. But wait and see. I think they said April, so maybe in a month or so's time, if it's signed, sale, and delivered, we can see that one. Another guy who's making some waves in the lightweight division is Puerto Rican star Felix Verdejo. He won on the weekend against a kid called William Silva, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he's ranked quite highly in the sanctioning bodies. He's number 2 with the WBA, just under Ismael Barroso. He's number 3 in the WBO. I think he fought for their Latin American title on the weekend. And a couple of other, he's quite highly ranked in the IBF but quite low in the WBC. If you've seen any of him, what do you think of him? And do you think he could be an heir to Miguel Cotto, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen bits of him, not seen enough of him probably. I know he's got that huge following in Puerto Rico, and as a result, there's probably that big drive for him to go on and be the next superstar, etc. And the bits I've seen of him do look smart. I think at this stage he is yet to fight someone who is like a sort of known contender. Is it fair to say that he probably hasn't gone out and beaten like a sort of well-known top 10 fighter at this stage?
Yeah, no, totally agree. I've seen a bits and pieces of him here and there. Looks really good, but waiting to see him against a top 15, top 20 operator, and that way we can actually tell if he's the real deal or not. Bob Arum has said that he's as big as Miguel Cotto now as Miguel Cotto was at the same time in his career. Don't think so, but only because Miguel Cotto was moving through the rankings well. He was being matched well, and I think Bob Arum has to do the same thing with Felix Verdejo that Cotto's management done with him, and then we'll see if he's as good as everyone says. That's my opinion on him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. If you look at Errol Spence, Chris Algieri, I think Verdejo would do well to have a fight like that. Chris Algieri, very solid competitor, very well known, been in big fights, really respected guy. But he's beatable.
Yeah.
Probably loses at the very, very elite level. Nobody would say he's top 5 in that division. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I think Verdejo maybe needs a fight like that takes him from elite prospect to contender. I don't think he's had one yet, and I think that's the kind of fight that Errol Spence is in now. Spence is still probably that elite prospect phase, but he definitely becomes a contender if he beats Algieri, and that's what I think Verdejo should be aiming at as well. But yeah, just on that fight, when I bring it up, how do you see Algieri Spence going? For me, that's a really interesting fight. Actually,
yeah, totally agree. Really good fight. Algieri, the thing is, he's with John David Jackson, isn't he now?
yeah.
Yeah, he completely tweaked his style against Mir Khan, fought outside of his comfort zone, and we know against Provodnikov, he boxed on the move for the whole 12 rounds. And yeah, I mean, Spence has looks like he has big power. Obviously, he has power against the C level opponents. We haven't seen him against a B or an A level opponent, so we don't know what his power's like. Looks like he has good skills. Looks like he's a solid operator, but we just don't know. I mean, Algieri could move and frustrate him, or he could fight fire with fire. And I don't think he would knock him out or anything, because I don't think Spence has as bad recovery powers and possible chin as Amir Khan does. But Algieri, I can see him giving him a fair few problems. Spence could come out the winner with a hard fought points win or a late stoppage or something like that. But Algieri, I would not discredit him at all. I do see this as maybe a 55-45 fight. It's a tight fight to call. Algieri is really underrated, to be fair. And I think he can give him, as I said, a fair few problems. Depending on what Spence will do, will he try and bully him or manhandle him? And Algieri came in like a hulking 165 last fight, I think it was, against Khan. So that could be another thing in his favor. So yeah, it's a good fight. It's an interesting fight for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't disagree. Firstly, I think it goes 12. I don't think Algieri carries much power.
Yeah.
And I also think, while Spence does appear to carry power, Algieri is extremely durable. He was dropped 6 times in that Pacquiao fight, but kept going, kept fighting. Got through all sorts of bother in the Provodnikov fight. He was dropped early again. Algieri is not an easy man to get out of there. I think the move to John David Jackson has done him very, very good. He performed with immense credit against Amir Khan. Some people felt he beat Amir Khan.
Yeah.
And Amir Khan never really hurt him. And then he went and beat Eric Broner, I think, on points. So, Algieri, very underrated fighter. The move to John David Jackson has developed his game. He used to be like an outside runner, dancer with a back foot jab. He mixed it up a lot against Amir Khan and really impressed me in that fight with the versatility of his game that came as a big surprise to me. Algieri's the kind of guy who could make you look very, very bad. Spence, he looks very tidy at a certain level, but there are defensive frailties there. I've seen him hit, surprisingly, quite a lot of times, and whilst I've never seen him hurt, never seen him dominated, never seen him in trouble, this is a big step up in class. For me, based on what I've seen from Errol Spence so far, based on how tidy he looks, you'd say Errol Spence has the higher upside. I mean, Algieri's never going to be true world class, and Spence is probably more destined for that than Chris Algieri. So I would pick Errol Spence, I would, but don't be surprised if it's one of those fights that gets close and shows that Errol Spence still has a lot to work on and isn't quite a finished article some people think he's going to be.
Yeah, totally agree. That it's an interesting fight. I think the winner will go on to bigger and better things. Again, Spence has a high upside, so yeah, we'll wait and see. Big fight, and yeah, I expect Spence to win, but I don't expect him to win. But I think he'll win. It's a tight fight, as I said. So interesting. It interests me a lot. That's a good fight.
Absolutely. Just going to cut the recording here.
Yeah.